So the question needs to be asked: should Ferran Torres and ANSU Fati leave this summer from Football Club Barcelona? Of course, this is the Xavi Ball podcast where we talk about Barcelona, football in Europe, and whatever, but mainly Barcelona. And it is the international break. I'm not the biggest fan of international breaks, especially when most of it consists of just friendlies. European qualifiers aren't all that interesting, although currently England is beating Italy 2-1 right now. So there's that. But Ferran Torres and ANSU Fati, now it's no surprise if you've been watching Barcelona all year long, ANSU and Ferran have unfortunately not had the best seasons. Now I'm going to get to Ferran first and then we'll get to ANSU. I feel like both scenarios are vastly different from one another. But the question does need to be asked because we have to remember Barcelona is still going through the post-Bartomeu era. If we remember, Bartomeu did leave this club in heavy damage. Like it's more than just anything. It's like we're probably not going to recover from all of this for the next 5 years because he just left that much of a footprint. And one of the major things is the finances, and that has caused us to have struggles in the transfer window. I remember there was even this one transfer window where we couldn't really sign players with money, so we were having to buy like a lot of free transfers. You had Dani Alves, you had Memphis Depay, and then Dama Traore loan, Aubameyang. You had so many of these signings, and now Barcelona, you're seeing them, of course. Last summer, they brought in a lot of players. Rafinha, Ferran Torres was one of the early risks they took. But you are seeing them, they're coming back, but they still have to suffer with the wage bill. And right now, what Barcelona does heavily need is you need to be able to remove some players. Because while Barcelona, I think, have done great this season, there's still problems within the club. There's certain players that, aren't necessary. To me, I believe every player needs to fight for the badge, and I think every player needs to at least be decent. And so far this season, there's been two players specifically that have underperformed, and that is, of course, Ferran Torres and ANSU Fati. Now, let me get to Ferran Torres. One thing that makes a difference is Ferran Torres costs $50 million to get here. We signed him from Manchester City. He was this bright young star. And I remember when he first came in, he was already making an impact. He was scoring. It clearly looked like Barcelona was kind of heading in the way where Ferran Torres would be the leader. And I think he did decent, but it still was far from, what we want. Because, unfortunately, $50 million, that's a lot, especially for a club like Barcelona currently at this moment. With the young talent he is, a lot of hype going into him in Spain. He was also great in Valencia, I feel like there was a lot of hype with him. And this season, he's underperformed. And it's not just that he keeps getting benched. It's that even when he plays, he doesn't impress me at all. Like, there's been times, I remember when the season began, I was excited because I'm like, we got Rafinha, we got Ousmane Dembele, we got ANSU, we got Ferran. We have so many great players in the wing that I really thought Barcelona was milito. And while, yes, Ousmane Dembele this season has been his best season at Barcelona, Rafinha, I think, while he has had moments of, not the proudest moments, but still, Ferran Torres, even with all that, anytime Ferran gets subbed on or he starts a game, I'm gonna be completely honest. I'm not looking forward to it because he hasn't done much. Sure, he got that tap-in goal in a Clásico. Sure, he's had a few bright moments, but they're so rare in between that I just don't feel like it's worth keeping him in the long run, especially if we are considering getting Messi this summer, because we have to remember that, again, with the wage bills stuff and all that, it's going to be nearly difficult to get Messi, and I feel like, Ferran Torres staying there isn't doing us much favors. Another thing is we have to remember that these players aren't getting any younger. If we remind ourselves about the Coutinho situation, remember, we could have sold Coutinho an entire year before he eventually left. But no, we decided to loan him to Bayern Munich. And that came to bite us in the butt because we could have made some money on the sale, and instead we hardly made anything compared to the price tag that we had for him. And you could honestly argue that with Dembele, although I will say Dembele this season, while he's not lived up to the price tag, I still think he's a phenomenal player who this season you could argue is one of our better players. And I would even say if Ousmane was healthy and played more often, I think Ousmane could be our best player behind Pedri and Xavi, and with Ferran, just he's not getting younger. We got to make money, and we want to bring in Messi. And out of our attack, our forwards and the wings, I just don't see another player to sell besides Ferran Torres. And look, I'm hoping for him to surprise me. I feel like this time period could have been his best period. Especially with Ousmane Dembele injured. But considering the fact that Xavi, was able to get Gavi in that wing, or not really a wing, more for 4-4-2, but it's technically he's a winger. Considering that happened, it just shows a lack of confidence in Ferran, and Ferran hasn't earned it. Like, I know he's had mental health issues, but hey, this is a football club, and a football club, we need every player to do well, especially players with high wages. Now, with ANSU FATI, this is a little different. With ANSU FATI, the difference is this is a kid that didn't cost us money. He's young, he's unique, and we can't forget that he's already proven himself at Barcelona. Because I remember there was a time period where ANSU was literally our top goal scorer heading to an Clásico sometime in September, or I think it was early October. And this was when Messi was still on the team. This was in Messi's final season when Ronald Koeman was still coach. And during that time period, he became our top goal scorer, and he was amazing. He was so brilliant, and every time I remember watching ANSU FATI, reminded me of not really like Messi, but a young Messi in the sense that he's so confident. He seems like he's a veteran. That's something about ANSU that I can say for very few players. There's a few players. Erling Haaland's one of them. Kylian Mbappe is another. Messi is another. There's been very few young players that when they play on the pitch, they seem so confident that it makes you think that they're 10 years older. Because I've seen a lot of great young players, but very few of them look like veterans. There's times where you see talent, right? You'll see talent, but there's a difference between talent and actually being that great on the pitch, right? I mean, even some of the best players that I've seen grow up now, even some of them, when they were young, I just saw, oh, they look good, but are they good enough to be stars now? I mean, sure, you could say that with Gavi, you could say with Pedri, but never, ever, ever have I ever seen a more confident teenager than ANSU FATI was. But we have to also remember, ANSU is still only 20. The difference between ANSU and Ferran is ANSU didn't cost us any money. He's already proven himself. Now, I'm not saying that this means that we should just keep ANSU forever regardless. No. If ANSU's not playing well in a year or so, then we got to get rid of him. But ANSU to me is such a major talent that I don't see why take him out. I feel like he's just that talented. I mean, we have to remember he's come off multiple injuries because he's kept getting injured, right? And right now I think it's mainly confidence. I think right now ANSU just doesn't feel the confidence he once had, especially with all the injuries. The pressure of wearing the number 10, I feel like, I still say this right now, I don't think ANSU should have taken the number 10. I don't know who should have, but to me, ANSU was just too young. And I know people are going to say, but Messi was also young. Yeah, but the difference is, while ANSU is an amazing player, who again, looks very experienced on the pitch already, the difference with ANSU and Messi is that no one's talking about ANSU being the GOAT. Messi, when he was young, I remember everyone was like, oh, this would be the next Maradona, the next Pele, right? And with ANSU, that never really was the vibe. With ANSU, it was like, oh, this guy could be maybe the next Neymar. This guy is going to become a Barcelona legend. Maybe he's going to be the next, leader of Barcelona. That was always the thing that we were assuming. It was never, can ANSU be in the GOAT debate? This isn't like Kylian Mbappe, who I do think genuinely has a great start to his saga of maybe being the next GOAT. So I think ANSU, honestly, we got to give him some patience. I think we got to give him some time. And yeah, I mean, I won't lie to you. ANSU has had a couple of chances this season, and I won't lie to you. There's been times where he's not impressed me, but there's also been times, the difference between him and Ferran is there's been far more times where I see ANSU is just doing brilliant. I remember in El Clásico when we lost 3-1 last year. I remember that game, we were so uninspired. We weren't playing good. Now, of course, the difference is back then Xavi didn't know what formation to go with. He didn't know what players to select. But I remember in that game when all the players looked uninspired, all of a sudden ANSU showed up on the pitch, same time as Ferran Torres was showing up, and was just dazzling the Madrid defenders. And he was amazing. He was doing well. And I remember there was a time before this season that ANSU, anytime he came back from injury, he would score a goal almost immediately. And I feel like with ANSU, you just have that much talent that I feel like he's worth taking the risk. Now maybe this could affect us in the long run. We saw that happen with Boyan, Christian Tello, Marc Bartra. I think there's been players that have affected us by not selling them at the right time. But I don't know. I feel different with ANSU, right? But I will say this. We got a year at most. I do think that if next year he's not doing at least decent, at least for his standards, then yeah, I think you're going to have to get rid of him. But anyways, those are just my thoughts. Thank you guys for indulging with me on this video. Whatever it is you guys think, y'all let me know in the comment section down below. Do you agree, disagree? Let us know. And I'll see you all in the next one. Visca Barça, Visca Catalunya.